The reason this story exploded across the world is simple. It's not really about money. I promise you, Prestige family, it's not about money. And it's not about inheritance either. It is about something far deeper and far more uncomfortable. And I'm not sure if you're ready for this story. I want you to pay attention. Just give me about 3 to 5 minutes, okay? Um, it's about what happens when 25 years of love collides head on with 50 years of legal documentation. Is the story of a respected medical giant, a former beauty queen, a family empire, and a court judgment that has forced millions of people to ask a painful question: can decades of devotion be erased by one unresolved signature? Now, to understand the magnitude of this case, you first have to understand who Dr. Tosin Ajayi was. This was not an ordinary wealthy man. Dr. Tosin Ajayi was one of Nigeria's most respected medical pioneers, the founder and CEO of First Foundation of Medical Center, one of Lagos' most prestigious healthcare institutions. Many Nigerians remember him as the doctor who famously fought to save the life of journalist Delegiwa after the tragic Paso bomb attack in 1986. He was a builder, an innovator, and a man who spent decades creating an empire that touched countless lives. Long before social media, Dr. Tosin Ajayi had already established himself as a national figure. But then, in July 1974, he marries Mrs. Adenike Oluyemisi Ajayi under the Marriage Act. Together, they built a family and raised 5 children. They also built much of the foundation that would later become his vast estate. However, somewhere along the journey, the marriage fractured. By the late 1980s or early 1990s, Dr. Tosin and Adenike were living completely separate lives. For more than 3 decades, they remained apart. To many people looking from the outside, the marriage appeared finished, completed, finito. But there was one critical detail that would later change everything. The marriage was never formally dissolved by a court. Then came Helen Prest. Helen was not an ordinary woman either. In fact, she was a lawyer. I don't know if she's still a lawyer, but she was definitely a former Miss Nigeria crowned in 1979, same year I was born, and a member of one of Nigeria's most prominent families. In 1996, she met Dr. Tosin Ajayi. What followed was not a brief romance, like a side chick, typical side chick type of situation. It wasn't anything brief or like a one-night stand. It wasn't a casual relationship. They built a life together that lasted almost 25 years. They shared a home. They raised a daughter that they have together. They appeared publicly as husband and wife. They built businesses together. In the eyes of many people around them, they were a married couple in every practical sense of the word. And this is where the story becomes deeply human, because many people watching this case are not really seeing Dr. Tosin and Helen, they are seeing themselves. They are seeing years of sacrifice, loyalty, companionship, caregiving, emotional investment, and shared dreams. They are thinking about the countless women and men who have spent decades building a life with someone while assuming that love itself was enough protection. Whatever love meant to them, of course. The uncomfortable truth is that many people operate under what I call the illusion of social validation. Everyone around them treats them like a spouse, so they assume the institution will too. Then Dr. Tosin passed away in April 2020. Suddenly, emotions gave way to documents, relationships gave way to legal definitions, and what followed was a bitter inheritance battle that divided public opinion. Some people looked at Helen and saw a woman who had dedicated 25 years of her life to a man and his household. Others looked at the legal framework and saw a completely different reality. Now, when Justice Oluwatoyin Odusanya delivered the bombshell judgment in June 2026, the court focused on two devastating legal obstacles. First, Helen's previous marriage had not been fully dissolved at the time she claimed to have entered into a customary marriage with Dr. Tosin. Second, and even more significant, Dr. Tosin's statutory marriage to Adenike from 1974 had never been legally terminated. The court stated clearly that separation, regardless of how long it lasts, does not dissolve a valid marriage. 30 years apart is still separation. It is not divorce. Ouch. Now, this is where the real lesson begins. Prestige family. This case is a masterclass in what I call marital architecture. The legal system does not calculate your tears. It does not calculate your sacrifice. It does not calculate how many hospital visits you attended, how many meals you cooked, or how many lonely nights you stayed beside someone during difficult times or difficult seasons. The legal system calculates status, documentation, and institutional positioning. I believe Dr. Tosin failed in one critical area of leadership. He left behind unresolved structures, and I believe Helen made an equally costly mistake. As a highly educated woman and trained lawyer, she invested 25 years into a relationship without ensuring the legal foundation beneath it was fully secured. The emotional structure was strong, yes. The legal structure was not. At least the emotional structure, I said, was strong. That's just from the outside looking in, of course, right? Now, when pressure arrived, the emotional structure could not save the legal one. This is exactly why Lola and I discussed these principles in chapter 7 of our book, Get My Marriage Back. We explained that real love stories require more than feelings. They require intentional design, clarity, alignment, and protection. Love must be supported by structure. Similar to faith being supported by work, as you probably have read in your scripture. Otherwise, people spend years building a beautiful house on land they do not legally control. It's not even about ownership, it's about control, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the appeal continues, and the final chapter has not yet been written. But regardless of how the appeal ends, this case has already delivered a powerful warning. In relationships, especially where families, children, businesses, and assets are involved, assumptions are expensive. Emotional commitment is important. Legal clarity is equally important. So let me leave you with this question, okay? If someone gives 25 years of loyalty, sacrifice, companionship, and partnership, but lacks the legal documentation to prove their status, should the law recognize their contribution, or should documentation always outweigh devotion? You see, yesterday, maybe about a couple of days ago, I had this conversation with my uncle, and when I asked him how should she have protected herself, or how should he said equity, and I was basically taken for a loop. But because of the structure of that show, this is our sister channel, Sharp Edge News TV, I had to just let the conversation go. It wasn't that I had like a strong opinion, but I'm curious to see how you take this. How do you see this? Do you see her as a side chick? Okay. Is this a situation of a side chick gone wrong? Because 25 years, side chick, is that really how you see this? Right? But on the other side, there's a woman who was actually legally married to him all those years. Were they secretly still sleeping together? Because nobody is talking about that in all of these stories, right? Were they still secretly sleeping together? What are the chances on a scale of 1 to 10? Because me, I'm a numbers guy, right? That you think they were still sleeping together all those years while the whole public just see Helen Prest as the woman of the house. Okay, but right now it's not looking good for either side of all of this. But let me know what your thoughts are, and hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. I'll be right back.
Are you fighting to save a marriage or a relationship, or simply avoiding to end up in a broken or toxic one?
We've been there, and you're in the right place. You see, inside this book, right, you will find and you will discover the secret to save a broken marriage, and you will learn how to build and attract the marriage of your dream.